Midnight Oil here on MLS Playoff Central. I am Andrew Wiebe. With me, my partners in soccer, Kalen Carr of The Movement and MLSsoccer.com. You know him from his days with the Fire and the Dynamo. And then Matt Doyle, of course, our armchair analyst, here to break down the tactics after another 0-0 draw in the Western Conference. Guys, goal averse out west. 2 0-0s. Luckily, we got some in the East as Toronto FC got a road win, 2-1 against the New York Red Bulls to really make a hill into a mountain for the Red Bulls to climb, as Jesse Marsch said. We'll get to Toronto, New York in just a second, but first, the Hot Take Hotline is open. We're already getting some calls, some emails, some texts. 401-206-0MLS. Hit us up. Let us know what you think of tonight. Let us know what to think of our takes. I hate to do it, but let's go 0-0 first, guys. This game just ended. Houston hosting the Portland Timbers. A couple controversial PK shouts in this game. We'll get to that. But it all started for the Timbers with a bizarre injury. Sebastian Blanco, one of the difference makers, a guy they spent millions on in the preseason, misses this game because of burns to the top of his foot from boiling water. So those were the bizarre circumstances that the Timbers start on. It would not get better on the penalty side. Let's talk about the PKs, though, because those were the big moments in this match. Once again, not a ton of open chances. The first one, Kalen, came via VAR, and it was a penalty, then it wasn't a penalty. Larys Mabiala coming through, scissoring Albert Elise, originally called a foul. Then they brought it back. What did you think of this one?
I actually thought it was a great tackle. I thought it was actually a great reason why we have VAR. To me, Mialba does a lot wrong on this. I mean, he's making a rash challenge from behind. The trail leg comes a bit, but he times it well and gets the important part right.
Comes a bit.
I mean, he said he gets the important, and the trail leg gets him. That's a penalty.
He got the ball. He timed it well.
I don't care if he got the ball. He scissored him from behind, and it's a penalty.
I think it's a great tackle.
You would have ripped your helmet off and thrown it at the ref if you had gotten tackled like that and hadn't gotten the penalty call.
Yeah, well, of course. You should do that. That's what you should do. But it doesn't mean it's the right call. I think they looked at it again and got it right. That's why we have video review.
Look, Caleb Porter had to be happy with this one. Alexi Lawless says that this is a perfect example of VAR giving refs a better informed call. Look, I'm not sure that one was a clear and obvious example of an incorrect call, because I'm with Doyle. I think he gets him with that trail leg, and I'm not sure that just getting the tackle, getting the ball as you start is enough after you take him down. That would not be it, though, in this game from the penalty side. And we're talking about PKs because there weren't a ton of clear-cut chances. There was another one. Tyler Derrick appeared to have taken down Darren Maddox in the box. And in this case, no VAR was used. Once again, I'm going to get your guys' opinion on this one. It's one that I think it's a penalty. I don't think Derrick gets the ball, and as Stu Holden said, if he did, it was a fingertip. Let's see it here if we can. Sorry, excuse me. We'll get back to that. Let's go to the injuries first. Diego Chara out with what we think could be a broken foot. You've got, of course, Sebastian Blanco with that burn, though he was in training, said the pain was too much in the warm-ups. And then Darlington Nagbe leaves as well. This is a terrible, terrible scenario for Caleb Porter.
Don't forget about Larys Mabiala as well. He had a tackle on Albert Elise late in the first half, and he had to go off after that one. But this is the big one. Diego Chara coming off. The report early is that it seems like it's a broken foot. And anytime you see a guy, especially a guy as tough as Chara, being stretchered off, he knew. He made the hand motion. This is a devastating blow for the Timbers, because we've seen it all through the playoffs. These games are tight. They're physical, and it's a scrum in central midfield, and you need someone who could dominate in that spot, who can make the field smaller. And Chara has done it in the biggest moments. And without him, I don't know who does.
This is what Houston was supposed to be looking like, having played 3 games in a week, and instead it's the team that's the higher seed, that's well rested, that's come in battered and beleaguered.
Look, Diego Chara is so important to this team, and we know that, but our own Ben Baer dug up the stats. They haven't won a game without him in the lineup this year, and it's been since, I believe, 2015 since they won a game that he did not start or play in. That's not good news, and we know Houston are not a good road team. They have just one win on the road this season. They've gotten a little bit better recently.
They're not as bad as it seems. Houston, since the Gold Cup break, so since the mid-July, they've gone 1 win, 2 losses, 5 draws on the road. And 3 of those 5 draws were scoring draws. So that's not bad. This is actually a better situation for Houston than I thought a scoreless draw would be, especially when you factor in, I mean, it looks like Portland's going to be out without a number of their big players.
I think it's a better result for Houston than it was for Vancouver.
Yeah.
Because Seattle have their big guns coming back, Kalen. They've got Victor Rodriguez coming back, you presume. They've got Clint Dempsey for sure coming back. On the flip side, if Chara's a question mark, if Lars Mabiala can't play, if Nagbe is not 100%, if this team is a second-team unit in a lot of different key positions. If you're the Dynamo, you're thinking, we can do this. Why can't we do this?
Yeah, that road record would suggest otherwise. I think one win all season. Not the most inspiring performance tonight from them at home. I think Stuart Holden said it best on the broadcast. Missed opportunity. The one positive I can say, Houston, our last 5 games against Portland, obviously tonight, kept a 0. Sporting Kansas City a 0. Chicago at home a 0. SKC a 0. SKC again, 1 goal. Now, that's a lot of SKC. We talked about their attack before.
Struggle.
But, 4 of their last 5, they've held a 0. Tyler Derrick, Player of the Month last year in MLS, so they have been strong in the back. But I still feel like there was something in this game for them, especially with the substitutions.
Just hard on short rest, and we've seen this over the years. That these games are tough on short rest even for home teams, and if you don't have a ton of momentum coming off of that knockout round game, it's tough to spin forward.
They also went 120 last
Yeah,
match.
exactly. So, I mean, they gutted that one out, and then to play just a few days later, I think it was always going to be tough on Houston. It turned out to be tougher on Portland, though, man.
It did.
That was
it
brutal.
did. Caleb Porter cannot be happy with this. Diego Valeri is with our own Mackenzie Thurkill in Houston.
Thanks, Andrew. Diego, you guys lost Chara right before the second half. How big of that is that for you, and how do you guys continue to go forward?
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad for us. Diego is very important for us in the middle. We lost David Guzman, Sebastian Blanco, Chu, we have Adi, so we have a couple injured, but we have a good team, so we have to fight next week and win at home.
Now you guys have everything to play for now next Sunday when you guys host at home, but what can you take away from tonight's game going into that match?
That we created chances, and we have to play with that intensity, and at home with our supporters, we have to win.
All right, thank you so much. Guys.
Yeah, he's right. They have to win. That's what it's all about right now, is getting results in the playoffs. And out in the West, nobody's winning. Will they win? They're the number 1 seed. They didn't necessarily look like what you would think a number 1 seed would look like tonight when it comes to chance creation and opportunities. Mm-hmm. But they've got it all to play for. Home is where the heart is, as the Portland Timbers might think.
Yeah, they do. And I think even with the injuries, I think they're probably still favorites to go through, specifically because they have that handsome bearded man who was just Larry's. Even on a night like tonight, you could feel his influence with just the way he was dragging Houston's defenders around.
Yeah, the conditions weren't great for either team. Portland, I think, suffered a little bit more from it because they like to play through the middle of midfield as opposed to Houston, who was looking really to get in behind and stretch the field on the wings. But there were some bright moments between Valeri and Nagbe, particularly. That relationship has always been strong.
The Nagbe chance, we haven't talked about this. Yeah. That was maybe the opportunity to set the tone in this game.
For sure.
That little ball in behind from Diego Valeri was just on point, and you put Nagbe in a position to score. These are the moments that over the years folks have complained a little bit about. Yeah?
I mean, he's supposed to be one of their best players, and I know he's not a big goal scorer, but he's got the ball in the box with a clean look at net, and he doesn't even force a save. That's tough. I'm sure more than a few beers were thrown around Oregon when that chance went wanting.
Well, the knock on him has been that he scores the hard ones and misses the easier ones. And I think that was a pretty good example of it. But that said, he's not the one that's going to need to be carrying the load for them. I think that's still going to fall on Valeri and also Maddox. I think when he gets his chance, if that penalty is called, which it wasn't, obviously.
Right.
They checked it. But I think that's what he brings. Even if he doesn't get goals, Maddox being able to be that presence, draw a penalty, create havoc, he still plays that role for that team.
Is Wilmer happy about this? Carl Robinson was happy, or presumably so, about the 0-0 draw.
I mean, they're going back there with a chance. And we said in the pregame show, this is a team that's kind of playing with house money. They didn't look super loose and carefree and having a lot of fun out there, but they said they are. And here we are 3 games into the playoffs, and they still have a chance to get all the way to the Western Conference Championship, which is nobody had Houston Dynamo doing that. So I think he's probably pretty happy. I think they probably can look at what they've done, because like I said, on the road in the second half of the season, this team has not been bad. 1, 2, and 5 is not terrible, especially when those draws will send you through. So I think they can look at what they've done since July figure that out and bring it with him to Portland.
Defense gives them a chance.
Yeah.
Defense gives them a chance. It's ironic because we've talked all season about their firepower on the attack, but this team in the back has been solid throughout. That's why they've got a chance going into this next match.
We've got an update on Diego Chara's status here from Jamie Goldberg of the Oregonian. This is not good news. Broken 5th metatarsal in his foot. He will not be back, you presume, for this, and that is a massive, massive blow for the Portland Timbers. This is a guy they rely on, somebody who breaks up that counterattack that we know the Houston Dynamo want to spring, especially on the road. And we saw in the pregame show, they can do it. They lost 4-2 in Portland, and it was a game that was much more open, much more even than that scoreline indicates. We have a Wilmer Cabrera interview to go to now. Mackenzie Thurkill is with the Dynamo's head man.
Thanks, Andrew. Coach, I want to get your thoughts on tonight's match. Your team committed 11 fouls and only got 2 shots on goal. What can you say about this team in tonight's match and now going forward for Sunday?
Yeah, we didn't connect. We weren't where we're supposed to be and where we used to do. So it was tough. They were good. But the key, we weren't at our best. It wasn't our best performance. Of course, you have to think maybe the extra work on Thursday last week. That's tough. But anyway, the good thing and the positive is we didn't receive a goal. 0-0 right now. It's for any of the two. The same way they came over here and got a result, we're going to go over there and we're going to play the best possible 90 minutes, and we have. They haven't scored. We haven't scored, but if we score one, it's going to be complicated for them. So we're still open. The possibilities is still right there. We haven't lost, so we have to continue believing in what we can do.
Now you guys are going onto the road to one of the hardest venues in the MLS in Portland. So what can you take away from tonight's match? And does it put a little bit more pressure on you now that everything comes down to one game?
They're going to take more risks. Now they're going to take more risks. And we're gonna be able to play our game, and we're gonna continue pushing for what we normally do. So we're in a good shape also. Defensively, we're solid. We didn't receive a goal. We haven't received a goal in the last few games. So we need to take that on Sunday to face the Timbers at home and try to do our best game during the season.
Thank you so much, Coach. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Self-preservation, that's the name of the game in the Western Conference right now. All these coaches saying, hey, look, second half's coming, cliche, 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 and that's what they got to say. After 0-0, it's all to play for, and keeping it simple there is kind of the name of the game for Wilmer Cabrera, especially with those road goals in play. We'll see what happens. That next game will be on Sunday. 3 games on Sunday, November 5th. That's the second leg of everything but Vancouver-Seattle, which will come on Thursday. Remember, pre- and post-game shows on MLS Playoff Central, so check those out. Let's talk about the Red Bulls game. Let's talk about Toronto FC's win at Red Bull Arena, really. And this is a 2-1 win, which we saw goals, yes, we also saw away goals, guys. Red Bulls didn't leave their head coach feeling very good about this one, Doyle. Jesse Marsch came out after this game, and we'll get to his comments in just a little bit, and he kind of ripped his team up, said they lacked intensity. Toronto FC from the start pushed them, got this goal from Victor Vasquez to set the tone in just the 8th minute, and they got a goal back before half via PK by Danny Royer, but throughout this game, it felt inevitable that Toronto FC was going to get road goals and eventually get the win.
Yeah, it did, and I don't know why the Red Bulls, I don't want to say they were timid, but we've seen them over the past month since Royer's gotten back and healthy into this lineup. They've been smothering. They have been on the front foot. They have been going at teams. And it seemed like they didn't really want to risk that against Toronto. And part of it was, I think Greg Vanney deserves some credit. He had Josie Altidore basically man-marking Felipe, making it so that the Red Bulls couldn't distribute through their central hub. And I think that threw New York off a little bit.
Yeah, it's one thing to say that you're going to play with house money and you're going to come out loose, and it's another one when you're staring down one of the best teams of all time in the face. And it was actually TFC that came out the aggressive one. They create that first goal off the turnovers. And the thing that stood out to me was I didn't think the Red Bulls played a particularly terrible game. It's just the margin against this TFC team is so small. You can't make a mistake, one bad back pass clearance, and then you're chasing from behind.
Yeah. Toronto FC, I think, making a statement to all of Major League Soccer, which is even when we don't play our best, even when Sebastian Giovinco is anonymous for the better part of 90 minutes, it doesn't really matter. We've got the quality, we've got the depth, we've got the ability to come out on top, and that's what they did.
Especially if your goalkeeper's, making mistakes like he did on the first goal. Luis Robles, I think, has to come up with that ball. And so to spot them a goal inside of 10 minutes, that's murder. And then, this was like a C-plus performance from Toronto, which says a lot about how good this team is, because I don't think the Red Bulls are a bad team, but Toronto just kind of bullied them a little bit.
A hill turns into a mountain for the Red Bulls. Can they climb that mountain, Kalen, or is this Toronto team just too much, especially in these circumstances, especially with MLS Cup down the line for them, the ultimate goal that they're looking forward to? Yeah, they're going to concentrate on the present, but I don't think they're going to be satisfied with anything but hosting that game and winning it.
Yeah, 2 away goals, and TFC not the type of team that's going to lay off the pressure in this one at all. They're a type of team, they feel like they can win every game on the road, at home. They play the same way, so I think the Red Bulls have put themselves obviously in an enormous hole here.
Yeah, and look, there's a secret weapon that's not so secret, by the way. MLS teams know that Sebastian Giovinco can bang them in from just about anywhere. If you give him that left hash with the right foot, Doyle, that's game over, and that's what's happened in this game. And Jesse Marsch lamented the fact that they made the foul here. Why are you doing this? He says, we know what he does in this position. Then he goes out and does it.
Yeah, it was a bad foul to give up right there. And I thought it was a little bit of a soft foul, but, fair is fair. The PK that the Red Bulls earned was soft as well. And this, Kalen, you have opinions on how they defended this set piece.
Well, I do. But first, we talked about this in pregame, Matt. It's an impossible situation because if you lay off Giovinco and give him too much space and you don't foul because you're close to the box, he's going to hurt you from outside. If you step to him, he's going to use his body, go down, get the foul. But on the set piece in particular, I've seen this a lot of times. I've been on teams where you use an extra defender to go and drop to the post. And you saw Murillo do it.
And Dax McCarty did it for a lot of years for this Red Bulls team.
They have, and he did it well. I remember him saving a couple. But Murillo, I'd be disappointed if I were in that locker room right now because his job is to get to that spot. Now, it's one thing if you make a mistake technique-wise, you miss a shot, BWP has chances. On the other end, it goes off, a deflected shot, goes wide. But this is one where you have to get to that spot. You have to get there early because as a goalkeeper, you're standing on the other side. You saw Robles standing way on the other side. He's got to trust his back that he's going to get to that spot, and he waits just a fraction too long. And
is that asking too much of Murillo? Is it asking too much of him to say you've got to time this perfectly? And not only do you have to time this perfectly, you got to be in the right exact space at the right time as Giovinco, an assassin, puts it in the top corner.
To me, it's weird that this responsibility goes to like a 22-year-old kid in his first year with the team. As you said, Dax McCarty used to do that. Well, Dax McCarty is a captain who's played 1 million MLS minutes, and he's going to get to that spot.
Right. But he's also one of your most athletic defenders. He's tall. He can get to that space, make up that ground. But to me, this is one of those where this is the Giovinco factor that you don't think about. It plays with a coach's head. All week, you're preparing about how are we going to stop Giovinco on a set piece. You want to make sure every dot is crossed, or dot is dabbed, and T's are crossed, and all that.
By the way, Murillo almost gets there. This is just like,
it's
like
as a
2
coach,
inches.
As a coach, if you get this right, you're a genius. Right. And if you miss it, you're overcomplicating things. So they didn't get it right on the play.
David Goss was at Red Bull Arena for this one, and he talked to Jesse Marsch after the game.
Coach, an early goal for them. You obviously have a game plan. How did you feel like your team reacted?
Not well. I don't think we played with life and belief. I thought we played timid. It was hard to watch, right? But we're only 1 goal down and it's halftime. So there's a lot to play for. We're going to have to learn from this, and our backs are going to be against the wall. So our team's back has been against the wall a lot this year. And we're going to find out what we're made of in Toronto. Now we've made a big mountain huge. So that'll be the task on Sunday, and I hope we go after it with more belief and more commitment than we did today.
You bring Verón on in the 60th. You changed the shape a little bit with Bradley Wright Phillips out wide. Should we expect to see those moves earlier or starting for the next game?
We've got a couple ideas that we think we can go to tactically. But it's hard if we don't get good performances, right? So you can, tactics are important when the team's playing well and when they're going after it. But when the performances aren't good enough, then you're only using tactics to hide things. So that's going to be the key. Is I just got to find a way to get these group of guys to regroup and to really believe that they can go after it, because they didn't tonight.
They had confidence in Chicago.
Yeah.
We talked about it pregame. What happened?
That's what's weird for me. That's hard for me to put my finger on, because I even felt like in every way that we were ready to go. But, maybe in some ways the pressure of being home and trying to get the result here, I'm having a hard time figuring out exactly what happened. But regardless, we're still in it, still in it. We're one goal down, lot of work to do, but we'll regroup and go after it.
Good luck, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Jesse Marsch, disappointed but hopeful. 2-1 down, headed to BMO Field. Let's see. They get a 2-0 win, they move on. They get a 2-1 win, you go to extra time. If they win 3-2, they would move on. If they get a 2-margin win or more, they're going to have to. They're going to have to win.
But a 1-0 win
right.
does them no good.
Right. They're going to have to win, and only I think Montreal won, and it was a bizarre game in the regular season. He called out the performances. And that contradicts a little bit what you said, Kalen. What message is he sending? If you're in that locker room right now, what are you hearing from your head coach?
Well, everybody's got a. What do they say? Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. That's
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson, yeah. Well,
noted philosopher.
Yeah, they had a plan going into the game to play loose, and they got punched in the mouth. And I think it took them a little while to get back into it. I wouldn't blow up the plan if I were them. I think it's going to send the wrong message to the team. I would go back to playing BWP is best up front. You don't take your guy who's got 18 goals on the season and put him out wide in the second leg because you want to get an extra number on the field. You move other pieces around, but Bradley is best up front. He needs to be around the goal. You trust in him. It shows trust in him. Keep putting that faith in your striker. Line up the way you have all season and see what happens.
Just somehow coax better performances out of the guys. I mean, Daniel Royer was sluggish. Sasha Kljestan tried to do some stuff, but I thought he rushed stuff, which is one of the big sins he commits. He's a player whose game I love, but he can try to hurry stuff. And I think that hurt the Red Bulls. Felipe got a little bit out of his mind there as well. But I think we saw it. In the first 20, 25 minutes of the second half, New York was taking it to Toronto. Now, granted, I think Toronto had the foot off the accelerator a little bit because they were okay with 1-1. But it's not like they come out of this game with no film, like no positive film to watch.
But that's the problem, right, Matt? We talked about this all year. The Red Bulls can look better than the opponent. They can put the pressure on you. Sure. But do they create the type of clear-cut chances that are going to be required to turn this series around? And here you see the PK, and a lot of people saying, myself included, that it's a little soft. It's definitely a foul. It's silly by Drew Moore, and this is the lone goal. And apart from that, you just didn't see a ton of opportunities. I don't see any way forward for this team unless that press all of a sudden takes on a little bit more tenacity, all of a sudden turns Toronto FC over in better positions, because I think if you're asking this Red Bulls team to do it in the build-up, they're a little bit too methodical. They're a little bit too willing to eschew an open shot to go for a pass that's more lower percentage.
You might be right, but I think you can do that a little bit against Toronto. Especially because they might not have Drew Moore for this second leg, and he's the guy who keeps their defense organized. So if Nick Hagglund is in there, he's a better physical presence, but it's just not as tight through the lines for TFC. So I think the Red Bulls will be able to go there and play a little bit. And I'm actually less worried about their ability to create those kinds of chances than I am about their ability to keep Toronto off the board. I just don't think this New York defense is good enough to do it. And if Toronto gets a goal and then a second, which is entirely possible, this series ends quick.
Yeah, Derek from New York hit us up. He is saying, hey guys, I see players getting banged up tonight. It makes me think how important depth is in the playoffs. Can anybody compete with Toronto FC's depth? I just want to throw it out there. They make 3 subs. The guys that come on are all MLS Cup starters. Yeah. From 2016. You see Sebastian Jovinko get a silly yellow card, let's call it, for time wasting. Mm-hmm. That may not affect him. Victor Vasquez had to leave this game with a groin injury. He took a knock there from Felipe. I'll let your imaginations run wild with that one. But I just don't think that anybody can compete with Toronto FC as yellow card accumulation, as injuries take their effect.
I think, if let's say they don't win MLS Cup, there will, obviously they're not going to win the argument for greatest MLS team of all time, but I think they've already proven that they're the deepest MLS team of all time. They only got like 2,000 minutes out of Jovinko this year, who is legitimately the best player.
Kind of intentionally so.
Yeah. And like they rested Josie very selectively. They've been able to, like, Vasquez, put him on the bench for an academy kid, and they go out there and they get,
we haven't even seen St. Ricketts yet.
Right, yeah, and he was scoring goals like all spring and all last year during the postseason. I think they are pretty easily the deepest team. I mean, the only thing that scares me a little bit is that if you look at that back line, they're down in central defense. If Drew Moore can't go, then okay, you're starting to, kick over some stones back there.
Alex Bono talked to David Goss after this game, a big 2-1 win for Toronto. Let's listen to that now.
For your team, you sit and watch all week as there's the knockout rounds. You come out, you score that early goal. How big was that for this time?
Yeah, it's huge. It's big for our confidence coming into a game and playing in front of a bit of a tough crowd. We know playoff games have a bit of a different aura around them, so for us to come in and get an early goal, it was huge for our confidence and for our team building for the rest of the game.
So then Red Bulls get a goal and Drew Moore goes down. Huge for the team. How did you see the shape change after he went down?
Yeah, I mean, we have a capable replacement that was on the bench today, Nick Hagelin. He's such an athletic player, and he's a smart player. So I knew that he'd be able to come in and do the job. Obviously, Drew's a big loss. He's been huge for us this season, so I'm wishing him a speedy recovery. Hopefully we can get him back in the lineup.
For this team, 2-1, but it's only halfway done. What's the conversation around the squad going into Sunday?
Yeah, it's an okay result for us on the road at playoff time, No game's going to come easy around this time of year, so going home with a 2-1 win, it's not the worst thing that could have happened today. So we're happy with it, but not satisfied.
As a goalkeeper, how nice is it to have a Javinko on the other side who can do that?
I was telling Luis after the game, listen, the amount of times I stood there after training and he did that to me, I know how it feels. So, it's unbelievable. He's an unbelievable talent, unbelievable player, and we're definitely happy to have him.
We're looking forward to Sunday. Andrew, let's go back to you.
Thanks, Dave. I mean, what stands out to me from that interview, guys, is Alex Bono just kind of ho-humming a 2-1 win on the road in the playoffs. He's like, this wasn't great. It was fine. It was okay.
It could have been worse. I think.
That to me is the distance, the gap between Toronto FC and the rest of the field. This team, presumptive MLS Cup favorites, we already know that. There's a feeling, I think, right now, after watching 3 of the first legs of the conference semifinals, at least in my mind, that it's their MLS Cup to lose. We've seen everybody play but NYCFC. I don't see someone...
We've particularly seen teams go on the road and be content to sit back and just watch and wait for the next round. And we've seen home teams do the same thing. Yeah. TFC is the only team that's gone in on the road. You couldn't tell they were on the road. It could have been a home game for them. Walking the way they walked in there, the aggressors from the beginning of the game, creating turnovers in the back. And then coming away semi-satisfied with a 2-1 win.
And feasting on matchups that they like, which is not something that we've seen a lot of in this playoffs so far. But they're very clearly, they were like, okay, we're going to drag Damian Peronel out here into space to defend Jose Altidore 1v1. Good luck. I like to see that. It's a little bit of ruthlessness that I think some other teams could use that. And granted, it takes a lucky deflection or a bad decision from Luis Robles to turn it into a goal, but you have to hammer those mismatches if you want to win at this time of the year. Toronto FC learned that lesson last year when they beat the hell out of NYCFC and then beat the hell out of Montreal. They kind of did the same thing tonight to the Red Bulls.
Yeah, interchangeable parts. I love to see Josie get wide because he knows he can do that because he's got Victor Vasquez, Javinko stepping into those spots. So many different weapons for them. The path forward for the Red Bulls for me is to get their outside backs more advanced. Yeah. I think Lawrence and Adams, they have to take more chances and they have to get them the ball earlier. A lot of the times tonight you saw when Adams got isolated one-on-one, they had help. Morrow and Betashore on both sides. That's a couple good early searching balls from Sasha, asking questions of Betashore, but he was stood up to the task today. But they need to get those two more involved in the attack. That's where they were successful against
I think
Chicago.
Lawrence at the back post had actually one of the best chances of the day, a pretty open header at the back post that maybe if the Red Bulls have a little bit of luck on their side, that goes in. But luck was not on their side. It was on Toronto's side tonight.
This game's going to go down on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, ESPN, TSN, TVA Sports. If you're going to tune into that one. Guys, do the Red Bulls have a chance? Jesse Marsch, he's saying what he needs to say, which is, hey, halftime, we'll see what happens. We're down 2-1. A hill became a mountain. Can they scale that mountain?
I mean, theoretically, in the world, the multiverse of probabilities, sure, there's a universe where the Red Bulls go and win that game 2-0 or 3-1. but not in this one. Toronto's too good. It's not going to happen.
It's just, I'm with you. It's hard to think that Giovinco won't find a moment, or Josie, or Vasquez, or who have you. Yeah. Somebody will find a moment.
That's the problem, right? Is we're talking about weapons for Toronto FC. Yeah. And we're saying, okay, you got Vasquez. Even if he's off hurt, you've won without him. You have Josie. Okay, yeah, he can dominate people, 15 goals this year. You got Giovinco. We all know about Giovinco. You've got even Michael Bradley who can make that difference. And then you look at the bench and you start saying, okay, you got internationals coming up.
We're worried about Drew Moore being out. They're 8-1-1 without Drew Moore this year. I mean, it's like this is a guy who's won an MLS Cup and who is their backline leader, and they lost him for 2 months, and they were like, it's fine.
Red Bulls have been good on the road, though. They have that formula. They went into Chicago. The model's there for them. They came out of Chicago, the aggressive team from the jump. They have to get a good start to this match. They can't sit back and wait to die. They have to step forward, and they've got no reason not to go for it at this point. Yep. The pressure's off. They find themselves in a lot similar situation they did in the knockout round, except maybe against a taller cast.
I think a lot of it does fall on Tyler Adams. And you mentioned before they got to get their fullback or their wingbacks up further. Tyler Adams needs to dominate Justin Morrow the way he dominated Brandon Vincent. Because I thought for Toronto, Morrow was quietly influential in this game. And when he's giving them width and penetration on the left-hand side, that allows the rest of those guys just to get into isolation.
That's the issue here. You're asking an 18-year-old to be a game changer, right?
If you're good enough, you're old enough.
Yep, it's a good point. On the other side, they've got some vets, and they've been doing it all season long. This was an interesting moment. Felipe did not have his best performance. Jesse Marsch traded for him from Montreal. Caption this? What's going on here? What's he saying? Is this a pep talk?
Well, this was right after he nudged our friend Victor Vasquez. Yes. This was directly after that.
Hey, Felipe, when do you keep on?
It looks like it might have been an intentional thing from Felipe, if you could imagine that.
Never. No chance.
I have no idea. But I know, like, Jesse was not afraid to get up in there and get close to his players.
No. Yeah. All right, that is all the action here. 2 games, 3 goals. Out west, we've got no goals from the first legs of the conference semifinals. There's the 4th and final first leg of the conference semis coming up tomorrow night. Columbus, New York City, from MAPFRE Stadium, 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, TSN 1, 4, and 5, and TVA Sports. Of course, we will be right here before at 7:30 p.m. Eastern for the pregame show. Should be a fun one. Make sure you tune into that one and every single night of the MLS Cup playoffs. MLS Playoff Central will be here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. That is it from us. Leave your comments in the comments section below and join us tomorrow night. We'll see you then.